And if you know anyone who wanted to get on but they couldn't get on tonight, we'll probably try to do one more maybe this weekend, just so we can get as many people trained. So my name is Matt. For you guys who don't know me, I'm just using Tina's account because it can hold more people. So thanks for everyone for signing on. Right now I muted everyone, but if you have a question later, you just hit star and then 6 and it should unmute you, or there should just be a button. So let's just start with Brandon. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. So Brandon is the one that kind of started the pro-lifers doing the walkout. He goes to Rockland High School, is that right, near Sacramento?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, awesome. So Brandon, do you want to just kind of give a couple-minute intro kind of on the backstory of kind of why you're interested in doing this, and kind of like what you're doing at your school so far, and just kind of go from there, and then we'll get into the different training portions.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining and giving their support for this cause that I have started. So anyways, the reason that I really started this was to bring nationwide awareness of the issue of abortions and all the terrible things that are happening at Planned Parenthood clinics nationwide, as well as I want to test schools across the country, because they did allow the protest last month on March 14th for gun control. So I want to test and see if there is a political double standard at schools across the country, because they did allow the first protest, so they must allow following protest. And also, I will hope this movement inspires students nationwide. Not deep, it doesn't matter what their stance on abortion is. However, I want this to inspire them to use their voice and stand up for what they believe.
Awesome. Yeah, so Brandon's been doing a great job. We've been working on it. He's been doing a lot of interviews. You can follow us on social media. You've probably seen articles we've been posting about what he's doing, and that obviously kind of led us to pushing more students to organize and do this great event. Whether or not you also participate in the gun walkout, this is not really, this isn't, the idea is obviously not to be a counter, but kind of like Brandon said, other students got to do it, so why shouldn't we also use our free speech rights to stand up for a political issue? So great. So let's start. Katie, you here? Are you in now?
I'm sorry. Did you call for me, Katie Short?
Yep.
Yep. Hi.
So if everyone wants to go, if you're on your laptop and you want to pull up studentsforlife.org/walkout, this kind of roughly has the topics we'll be going through today. So on the line with us is Katie Short from Life Legal Defense Foundation, and they have volunteered to help anyone at a public school who's facing free speech issues with the walkout, or just in the future if you have any issues with your club. And Katie will kind of go through the process for that. Briefly, if you have any issues, the best thing to do is go to your regional coordinator and myself, and we can help prepare everything, kind of act as an intermediary before we go to Life Legal. But yeah, Katie, do you want to kind of just start with what we had talked about, just sort of what they should do if they get any pushback, what they should do in terms of preparing and everything like that?
Yeah. I think the first thing you have to remember is that there is a distinction between public and private schools. And so most of what we'll be talking about here is about public schools, because private schools can set their own rules. They can even engage in viewpoint discrimination if they want to, because they are not, the First Amendment is about government action, not private action. And I guess then the second thing is, I mean, what we're talking about, with the walkout is what we describe as the walkout, the school is going to describe as an unexcused absence. And I mean, a couple of things is whether or not there has been a prior walkout at your school, what they can't do is punish you more severely for walking out for this, then you would punish or sanction or whatever the consequences are for an unexcused absence at your school. They can't impose something more severe than that for this. And that's whether or not they ever had the gun walkout or not, because that would be punishing you specifically for the viewpoint you're expressing and the reason you're doing something. So that's the first point. There has to be sort of neutrality about the way any consequences that would be imposed. The second thing is, if you're at a school where they did in fact allow a walkout for the gun issue, then you're in a position to at least, I would say, expect that you would get equal treatment for your desire to exercise, to be, it would be expressive activity is what we're talking about here. That would be treated equally as for the gun walkout situation. And I mean, you have to be asking a lot of questions about, how this campus or how the administration is going to treat this. Are they going to, treat it as an unexcused absence in this case, whereas they didn't for the other? Or, that's what you have to do, is sort of question and document what their expectations are versus what your expectations are. In other words, if the others weren't penalized, then you would expect that you wouldn't be penalized also. And then, even when we talk about viewpoint discrimination, it doesn't mean necessarily that they're, that the gun versus the pro-life issue. If they say, well, that one had a lot of national backing, and yours is not. Everybody was talking about it, everyone to do it, and whereas yours is just, you and a few other groups. That also was not a sufficient reason for them to distinguish between this plan, this activity, and what happened last month. So I think the first thing students have to do is find out what the policy is about unexcused absences, and then also how they did treat, what in fact happened last month. Was there a gun walkout, and how did the administration treat that? And then I guess I would like to open it up for questions. When you talk about getting pushback, that could take a lot of different forms. So maybe, Matt, if you've been getting questions, you can pitch them to me in terms of, what particular situations that you might have encountered or the students might have encountered.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you touched on kind of the schools say, well, that was a national issue, and versus this is more local. So I guess the first question would be, let's say the school didn't allow the gun walkout. What sort of free speech rights does a student have in that regard?
Again, in terms of just, in that case, what they have is the right not to be sanctioned any more severely than someone who just has an unexcused absence for no good reason at all. They really can't expect to get a pass on this, because it is for the purpose of free speech rights, if it's violating an otherwise generally applicable rule. So, but they can't be more severely penalized than they would be for a regular unexcused absence.
Okay. The next question I would say is, let's say the school does approve the event, but they say, I think we've gotten this from, I think Saffron, you're on, where they said you can host it if you can get students, but you can't put up flyers because, it's a controversial thing and we don't want posters going up around the school.
I think we're talking about a situation where they did not participate in the gun walkout, so we don't have a comparison that way. It's just starting from a blank slate, sort of. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Then simply because it's a controversial issue, no, that's a red flag for you've got content discrimination, and you would be saying, okay, so if this was about non-smoking, we want to encourage students not to smoke, and we're going to walk out for 17 minutes to encourage non-smoke, you wouldn't have a problem with that. And you've got to sort of draw them out that because simply qua controversial issue, no, that is not a good enough reason to not allow it. But if there's no record of it, you've sort of got to draw them out in terms of what they mean about controversial issue. Because if their position is more, this is against the rules, and so we're not going to allow you to put up posters encouraging people to disobey the rules, I can't say that that's an unreasonable position to take.
Okay. I would just say one more question, then we can just kind of open it up if there's anything that's come up so far. So what is the best way, what kind of steps should they be taking in asking the school? Like, are there certain phrases they should use when asking, or putting everything in writing that if down the road you do have to challenge the school would smooth out the process if you did have to send a letter or call their school? What can we kind of do now to prepare in the event we do need Life Legal's help to make it easier for you guys?
Right, to make my job easier. Okay. I think what the gold standard is is having a written policy about these things, because it's often very hard to pin down what someone said and whether this person had the authority to say it and what was just said off the top of their head. So the gold standard for really knowing what the quote unquote the school's position is a written policy. And so I really would encourage that to be the first step, is what is the school's policy as to unexcused absences? What is the school's policy, as to, any sort of concerted action for something like this? They may not have a policy about it. They may have only come up with a policy about it last month. Some of them might have said, we've never dealt with this situation and we don't want it to happen. And so we are now creating a policy that says students can't do this. So I think, but that's what's most helpful, is to know exactly what the school's policies are. And also, again, for not being sanctioned more severely, is to find out, okay, what are the consequences of an unexcused absence? And it could be that, yeah, you might get one black check against your record, but you're allowed 5 per semester, and it's just not going to be a big deal.
Thank you. Awesome. So actually, why don't we do all the questions at the end, but Katie, if you need to go, I can always write them down and just correspond over email. Kristen, now that you're on, do you want to say a few words? And then we can go on to Christy. Kristen, I can't hear you. Let me see. Are you muted, maybe? Let me see. All right, let me try to make you look. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Okay. So, Christy Hamrick, are you on?
I am. I hope you can hear me.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So, Christy is our media strategist, and she's going to go over a couple tips that will help you both for the walkout and just in general for your different activities. And so this is on the studentsforlife.org/walkout page. We're kind of on the section now about writing a press release, creating a press list, and talking to reporters. So Christy, do you want to get started? And then I have a few things, and we can just kind of open it up to any questions in general.
Absolutely. So the number one thing is I've been dealing with the media a long time. It's not dangerous. They don't generally bite too hard. Dealing with the media is not necessarily like becoming a lion tamer. A lot of people are very intimidated by that. You need to think about it a little bit more like dealing with a used car salesman. They say or do whatever they need to get what they want. You don't have to believe everything they say, but you want something too. You both want a story. So there's a mutual need, and yet you don't have to open up your checkbook and show the proverbial used car salesman your entire balance. And they don't always tell you all the truth about everything they're trying to communicate, but there's an exchange that needs to take place. So you want to be sophisticated about it and recognize that there's mutual need. And that's actually comforting because you have a story to tell and they need to tell a story. The media does often have, usually have, and almost always have a pro-abortion bent, but it is very unwise to go into a conversation with the media with a hostile feeling. I was a reporter myself. I was a pro-life person, and many times I would have a great conversation with Planned Parenthood and a hostile conversation with pro-life people because they never believed who we were. So just keep your mind open and be a little skeptical, but I recommend that you don't be hostile. When dealing with the media, the steps I would recommend to you is number one, be organized. You need to have something in writing before you prepare to engage the media that tells your story. We call it the 5 W's and the H: who, what, when, where, why, how. You know, these are important facts. There is a news release, a fill-in-the-blank news release at the website that you can use to put in some of the details. Your contact information, a little bit about why you want to do the march. You need to start there. You need to know your own story before you even begin to try to talk to the media. It's important to include your contact information in that fill-in-the-blank news release. But I would encourage you to think through, do you have a long-term cell phone that you want to keep private? Do you have a long-term Twitter you want to keep private? You could set up a Gmail account just for this. Think about your long-term privacy, and you can make a separate email or ask people to IM you on Twitter. Don't put out something that you want to keep private going forward long-term. So be smart about that. So take the fill-in-the-blank news release. Think about the details of your event. Think about how you want the media to get in contact with you. So that's step one, get organized. Step two, you need to think about why you care. There's a place for you to talk about your part of this story. What bothers you, what troubles you, what you think is significant. Is it free speech? Is it the way that Planned Parenthood wastes our money? Is it the Holocaust of abortion? Think about what troubles you, and then you write your quote down. You have a passion. Be honest about that and communicate that in the news release. Step three, you need to plan on 30 minutes of computer and phone time to communicate to the media. Basically, at any given school event, that's about 3 different points of contact. Number one, I would call the local newspaper, ask for their city desk or their metro desk. It's hard to say how they organize it. That's going to be the person who covers local news. You could ask for an education reporter, but not every paper has an education reporter. But the city desk or the metro desk is going to cover local news. And then you tell them that you're calling about this walkout, and you send them the news release that you already prepared. Make sure that the editor, number 2, of your school newspaper knows that you're going to have a walkout. Again, communicate with them, give them your news release, email that to them as well. Number 3, the assignment desks of your local television stations. Normally that's just 4 phone calls: ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. Same thing. You call, you ask for the assignment desk, and you email them this news release that you've written. This is going to take you like 30 minutes. So now it's the day of your march, and media has come, hopefully, and you want to talk to them. And I want to give you just a couple quick points about dealing with the media. The most important thing to do is to stay on message. You want to keep it short because the media likes to edit. So don't feel like you need to go on and on and on and fill the space. A former reporter myself, I can tell you that people will let you will let a person talk and talk and talk because you want to edit them. So be short, be smart, be succinct. Don't feel like you have to talk a lot, because the more you talk, the more you give them to edit. And number 2, and this is important, remember your job and your larger purpose here. Your purpose is not to answer their question. Your purpose is to communicate your point of view. And they might try to make you look silly. They might try to make you look hypocritical. They could ask you a question to make you uncomfortable, like, if you care so much about the loss of life, how come you aren't more involved in gun rights, as opposed to abortion? I want you to be prepared for that. And there are a couple things that you can say to get back to your story. And these are important. You could say, look, you're missing the point. We are here because, and then you can go into your story. You can say, look, students motivated by that issue had an event, but we today, we're motivated for this issue because, and get back into your story. You could say, you know what really troubles me today is X, the thing that is your passion. Don't be afraid of these hard questions, but don't feel like you need to answer them. Acknowledge them. There are people with other passions. There are other events that have taken place, but today we are here because this is the thing that motivates us. Remember why you're there and don't get distracted by the side issues. And I want to also encourage you to have your friends tape and record everything as much as possible. If it gets out of hand, you've got video that can be used later. And if it doesn't get out of hand, you can have video of yourself doing a great job talking to the press. So there's nothing to be afraid of, but remember, you are there for a reason. It's not the media's reason. Be organized, get your statement ready, and stick to your statement. And great resources at the website in terms of talking points and the news release, and we look forward to helping you.
Thanks, Christy. One other resource I thought of, if you guys want to go to pro.org/press, you can see a lot of our press releases we've sent out in the past couple months, so you can kind of get an idea of other examples, and these are ones that have gone out to media. I think another great thing to add to just to the media is, I know especially like myself, I don't always like calling places, especially calling people I don't know. But just remember, the people at these news desks, that's what they're there for. They're there waiting for people to send them news tips, send them news ideas. So no, assignment desk is going to get mad at you because you're a high school or a college student and you sent them your idea. They're there to sift through different story leads. They may not necessarily cover your story, but they're there pretty much waiting for people to send them ideas. Would you say that's right, Christy?
I've worked those phones myself. People want those calls. They want to hear your stories and they will not be mad at you for calling.
Yeah, I will, and I'll also send these out in the notes afterwards. So I'll put in the chat right now, though. It's studentsforlife.org/press. It's our press statement. And then the sample press release is at studentsforlife.org/walkout. And that's also where we have different flyers you can download to hand out. We made them so you can write in like date, time, your contact info, different social media graphics you've probably seen us post. You can feel free to download those and tweet those from your own accounts, post on Facebook, Instagram, whatever you'd like. Great. Well, thank you, Christy. So why don't we open it up to questions now, and then there's a few other things I'd add at the end. But if we have any questions, yeah.
It worked.
Hey, Christy.
Yay, I made it on. I'm so sorry. I think when I was recording my podcast, I changed some settings, so it wasn't letting me talk into my laptop anymore. But before you guys do questions, I just wanted to get on and cheer everyone on and thank you for taking this courageous stance to sign up to be a part of the walkout. I know originally when we talked about it as a team, we really had the question of would student groups want to participate in the National Pro-Life Walkout? Would they be inspired by what Brandon's doing at his school? Because this is a hard thing to do, to meet with your administrators, tell them you're going to be leaving class. Some of you may face some sort of disciplinary procedure for standing up. So I'm so excited that this is taking off and that so many people are joining this. I got an email today from one of my friends. Her son signed up to lead the walk at his school. He hasn't even told us or signed up online yet. So I actually think we're going to see hundreds of schools participate next week. Students across the country and all the different states, schools we won't even know about. So I really would encourage you to, any student that you know a different school that's participating in the walkout to make sure they sign up so we can account for them, because that's what helps make this a bigger national story. Also, by signing up, they'll get access to this webcast, which we really want to make sure every student leader, every pro-life student leader watches this webcast, listens to this webcast before the walkout, and you get to meet us and hear these tips and see, what we have ready, standing by to help you. So I'm really excited for this. I'm going to actually be in Long Beach, California, joining the walkout there next Wednesday. All of our staff and team members across the country will be joining the walkout at their location. So I'm really, really excited about this. I think this is a unique opportunity for this pro-life generation, something that we are touting all the time in the media about how this generation is pro-life and how we reject the violence of abortion, and that we will stand up and speak for those who don't have a voice. We will stand up to Planned Parenthood, the bullies at Planned Parenthood that prey on our generation for their create a customer business cycle. We are the ones who are going to stand up. And, there's been a lot of a disappointment this year, actually, in Washington, D.C. Legislation that was supposed to be passed, like a 20-week pain-capable bill that would ban abortions after children would feel pain in the womb, that they failed to pass. We were supposed to pass a bill defunding Planned Parenthood of their more than $500 million in taxpayer funds, and we failed to do that. And so I'm so excited because pro-life generation members aren't just waiting for these, politicians in Washington, D.C. We're actually on it. We're doing it. And we're demanding that our voices be heard. And we're standing up for our generation, that 1/4 of our generations that's missing. So I just want to thank you all for being courageous enough to do this. I remember when I was in high school, I launched my first protest of our governor in the state who had vetoed a pro-life piece of legislation. And he actually was coming to our school to give me a scholarship. And I wanted to protest them, but I also really wanted the scholarship money. And so it was great. I actually ended up having my entire family, my entire church outside the school protesting him while I was inside receiving the scholarship. One of my biggest regrets was that I wasn't able to get out of school to get back in school in time to get the scholarship and join the protest. But I still have those memories. I still have those photographs. And it was hard. The administration obviously was not happy that the governor was coming to our high school, and yet one of the students receiving the scholarship was actually protesting him and organizing protests against him. But it was great. And I knew at the end of the day that I had spoken up for those who have no voice. And that when he left our school, when he was going home that day, he knew that this pro-life generation rejected abortion, the violence of abortion. So thank you for standing up. I look forward to standing with you guys next week. And make sure you get Matt's email. You all have my email if you've signed up online. So you have our contact information to contact us as soon as something happens. Is something a legal matter, a PR matter, a press matter? We want to know so we can help you, because that's what we're about. We're about serving you and helping you be successful and being the voice for our generation on your campus. Thank you all. Good night, guys. Sorry, now go ask your questions with Matt. Ask him all the hard stuff.
Can you hear me?
All right. Yep. Do you want to start? So let's just open up to any questions. Go for it.
Okay. So basically, I was having trouble with, you see, today, I don't know, as I told you, I've been having, you see, basically, about a month ago, naturally, my school was one of the schools that assisted in the anti-gun protest. Basically, we had posters everywhere lining the halls, and they were super huge and flashy. Basically, what it was that it was created by one of our clubs, Do Change. And the thing was, when I tried to ask my administrator, the dean of students, hey, can I do this for my group? Because I was trying to raise awareness about the pro-life cause itself, because I not only want to create a pro-life march for the walkout, but I also wanted to create a pro-life club itself. He basically rejected it and said he didn't really want to take a side. I'm like, well, you took a side in the gun debate, so I really didn't know how to respond to that. Apparently, according to him, you can't really post anything without the office's approval, and I just thought that was kind of ridiculous. I didn't really know why I couldn't post up posters of the pro-life thing and put my information up there so people could find it, rather than him being able to do the gun debate while I can't do the pro-life debate. It's kind of silly. So I was wondering if you had anything like I could rebuttal with, because right now he's just saying, no, you can't do it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say there's really two steps. There's one, there's starting a pro-life club, and I think you've been working with David Cordero,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I know we were going through time email. So I would definitely keep going ahead with that. That will be going on past Wednesday. And then as part of it, definitely putting up signs either for the march or for the walkout. And then again, just broadly like advertising for, hey, does anyone want to join our club? Did you try emailing the flyers to him yet, or emailing him posters so we have it in writing?
I haven't gotten the flyers yet. I looked at the the walkout webpage itself, but I was unable to find any downloadable things, so I was having problems with that.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So at the bottom of the page, you should be able to just click on it and download it. But if you have any trouble with that, just let me know. I'd be happy to. I can just email you. Tell you what, I have your email address. I can email you like the Google Drive file.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
But yeah, I would definitely say just keep asking, get it in writing, and then just keep David and I in the loop. Because basically what you want to do is just build enough proof that you've asked all these times to put up signs, to start a club, so that we can then go back and say we took all these steps. As Katie said at the beginning, it's also too about asking for the policy. So I would suggest asking the principal, how do I go about starting a club, so that it's you need to sign up 10 members, submit a club constitution, and get a faculty advisor. And then as long as you follow that should be good. So I would definitely start with that, get everything in writing as much as possible, and go from there. So, and if you have any other questions too, obviously just feel free to email me or call me again.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
And let's do this. When you guys ask a question, if you can kind of share what your school name is and where that is, what state that is, I think that'd be great for you guys all to get to kind of know each other if you don't already. So one of the questions in the chat was, does the walkout have a certain time we should end? So we've been doing 17 minutes, so it would be 10:17 local time. But certainly we know that if you go to a school that didn't do the walkout, or it works better to do something else, we just want you to know we are obviously flexible on that. I think the most important thing is to do something that day. So if your school absolutely won't let you do the walkout, maybe if you host a pro-life speaker, maybe you do, some groups are doing a chalking on the sidewalk. Maybe you can do a moment of silence before or after school. And we have plenty of other ideas we can help you with in the event that, for whatever reason, a walkout just absolutely won't work. I know some of you had trouble with the school didn't allow the walkout, so they actually are being consistent and saying they're going to punish students who do the walkout too. And so there are definitely other alternatives. We don't want you to get, in trouble. So there's other alternatives we can work with you on. Something else you can do Wednesday that still makes the same point. So next question about the walkout.
Yeah, so I'm Nora Hof. I go to school at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. We've been a really active group. We've been doing a lot with Pregnant on Campus lately. But I guess one thing, and it may be kind of trivial, is that we don't want, I guess like the idea of the 17-minute was kind of pulled from the March for Our Lives, and it's not that I agree or disagree with what they're doing with their protests, but maybe using a different timing of that instead of trying to mimic that so closely, but also to kind of get the point out there that we're walking out for that, 1/4 of our generation not being present because of abortion. So definitely trying to take it more away from the gun control. Do you have a creative way in which we can that because, of course, they had thousands of people join their efforts, but we would probably only have about 15 at most.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd like to pick a different number, I mean, round numbers are always fine, 10 minutes. So every year, if you guys want to write this number down, Planned Parenthood, last year Planned Parenthood boarded 321,384. So you can always figure out in any minute period or second how many babies Planned Parenthood boarded if you want to do that way. If you want to do 15 minutes, because that's 1/4 of an hour and 1/4 of your generation's lost to abortion. Certainly, like I said earlier, if there's a time that kind of works better and you feel more comfortable explaining, that would be fine too.
Well,
to answer your question.
The other thing was we have the We Don't Need Planned Parenthood display. So I was thinking maybe setting that up, but then also just letting passerbys know that there is a national walkout happening for life and for the pro-life issue. And it would just kind of give us an additional talking point to say, okay, this is why we're doing this. Planned Parenthood aborts, 897 babies a day, kind of going off of that. So if anyone had any concerns about, how can we kind of pull it away from the gun control and try and make it our own thing?
Yeah, I think it'll be fine, especially if you're already doing the We Don't Need TP that day. I think that would be great. Awesome. Yeah, so Michaela, if you want to go, is that right, Michaela?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so at my school, we did do the walkout for the gun control, and I'm spreading the word around at my school. But I'm not sure if anyone's gonna do it. So do I just go in my quad or just wait outside my classroom? What should I do?
Yeah, I mean, definitely one thing would be great would be get a couple people definitely signed up, their phone numbers, emails, Facebook, chat, whatever you feel most comfortable doing.
Okay.
And then again, that's something where if you feel like it is only going to be you and you might feel uncomfortable doing that, you could certainly do a pro-life chalking, or maybe you print up those flyers on the website, or you go to, you have another resource that your regional coordinator can give you. Maybe you pass them out at lunch or something else, if you feel more comfortable doing that. But I'm sure if you start asking around and getting emails and phone numbers and telling people it's going to be you and 10 other people and 10 other people, you can do the walkout for sure. If you feel like it might be more productive to hand out flyers about Planned Parenthood and how they lied, or something else, that would certainly be fine too.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, my name's Kate Haley. I'm from Banks in Oregon, and just touching on how long the walkout's going to be, it was suggested 3,000 seconds for how many babies are aborted each week. No, each day. Each day, actually, sorry. So that would add up to about 50 minutes, which is another idea.
Yeah, I mean, if your school let you get out for 50 minutes, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's another great idea. And then, so I'm just going to circle back. So Nora had mentioned our We Don't Need Planned Parenthood project. This is another great resource you can use if you are making up your own flyers about why we should be defunding Planned Parenthood. So the website is just wedon'tneedpp.com. And there's lots of great stats on there, lots of questions you may get, kind of common arguments for why we need Planned Parenthood, and then obviously our arguments against it. There's also a booklet on there you can print that kind of goes over Cecile Richards' legacy, so to speak. Another great resource you guys should feel free to use. So are there any media questions specifically? I'll kind of circle back to those. We did a couple of free speech ones. Any media questions or
I do.
anything else?
if that's okay.
Sorry?
I said I do, if that's okay.
Hmm? Go for it.
Okay, because like at the original technically what we had was a walk-in, I guess, with the auditorium. And what was going on was that some kids actually wanted to do what the rest of the nation was doing, and they told the office beforehand, hey, we want to do a walk-in, we want to do a walk-out. So they walked out. And basically what happened was that someone tried to walk up and take pictures and say, well, what are these kids doing and stuff like that. Like, I think maybe it was someone from the news, I don't know. All I know is that the administration got really, really upset. So, and they drove them off just as soon as they could. So it's just, I'm kind of terrified to ask them, hey, can I actually bring media into this? Because I haven't got they're going to allow that. So what can I do to like help them convince it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a battle between the media and the school that I understand. I would let the journalist, the reporter, sort that out with the school. That's probably the best way to do it. Because if it is a public event in the sense you are walking out or something like that, that's between the journalist to figure out with the school, and that's like always going to be a battle between them. So, right, Christy, or?
Yeah, you should let the journalists know what you're going to do, and believe me, they will enjoy the fight.
Okay.
I was a journalist myself. It's kind of fun when it gets like that. It's a taxpayer-funded school, and it is students expressing their free speech rights, so they'll enjoy the conflict, to be honest. And to be honest, the conflict is a story in and of itself. So don't worry so much about it, because they have their own lawyers, and they get bored too. They'll enjoy it. You do what you can do, and you let them know what you're going to do, and you let them fight with the administration. And they have a long-term relationship too. Most newspapers, most television stations have an education reporter, not all, but they all have a relationship with the local schools. So they probably have more pull in terms of getting in than you do, getting them in.
Okay, so because like, how would I like properly contact a reporter in order for this to happen?
Well, again,
Yes.
just call your local newspaper and ask for the Metro or City desk and tell them that you're going to do a walkout, and then you're going to ask for an email and email them that release that you made from the template. And
Okay, thank you.
if you just even go online, you can go online to your local TV station and you'll get a number, and you're going to ask for the assignment desk. TV stations have an assignment desk, and they're going to take all the emails there. The newspapers have a city or a Metro desk.
Got it, thank you.
It's 4 phone calls, really. And let the editor of your paper know too. But literally it's 4 calls. And trust me, the assignment desk and the city desk, they literally sit there to take phone calls like this.
Okay.
They
That
want
sounds
you.
amazing, thank you.
Yeah, they like it.
Thank you.
Awesome. So let's open up to one more question, and then 2 more reminders. And then if you have anything else, you all have my email, or you can ask your regional coordinators. So any other questions?
I have a question. How can we get our community involved in this walkout? Are we allowed to have adults from outside involved in the walkout to come listen to any speaker that might come or come march with us or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, that's something to work with the school on. If you're going to host, let's say, a speaker after school, I think the school would let a community member in because you're basically hosting a public event at a public school. And so I think that would be fine, especially if you're doing something after school, or some groups I know are going to probably do something at maybe a local church after or something like that. Definitely invite adults in. You can't get them to, of course, ask them, maybe you guys can all meet up after the walkout and meet with them at like a restaurant or something and kind of tell them how it went. Or, you can just ask them to pray for you, or they can just help, maybe press release as well or something like that. Or if they have media context they want to share, or poster boards for your sign. There's lots of ways they can get involved. Question. Should you talk, last question, should you talk to your principal before you call the media press release? Your principal doesn't sign off on your press release. In fact, don't even ask them to. But you should talk to your principal to start the process of planning the walkout. And even if you're at the point of telling the media, hey, I'm planning this walkout, I'm working with the school now to get it approved, that would be fine, and just keep them updated. Is that what you meant, Maria? Okay, great, awesome. So just a couple things, and then we'll be done for tonight. If you have any other questions, email me. So studentsforlife.org/walkout, that has a lot of great information. It has my email, it has Christy's email. Please, during the walkout, definitely take photos, videos, just send it to us in a Google Drive or send it to your RC, they can get it to us. Send them our way. If your parents have any questions, because I know we have a lot of high schoolers, please feel free to have them call us, email me, whatever they'd like to do. We'd be happy to answer it. And definitely just keep asking your principal, ask them, what would I have to do to plan a walkout? Keep bugging them, email them multiple times. If they don't answer your email, go to their office, get an answer, tell your RC about it. Yeah, I think those are the main things. There's also a couple more emails you'll be getting, so just watch out for those. We're sending signs to everyone, but if I didn't get a full address for you, I can't send you a sign. So anyone who signed up today, who's on this webcast, I'll make sure to follow up with you if I'm like missing a zip code or a city, so we can make sure to get those 10 Pro-Life Gen signs to you. But we mailed out a lot yesterday. So yeah, all right, well, thanks everyone for coming. If you have any more questions, my email is mlamb, so mlam@studentsforlife.org, or you can speak to your reader. Christy, you want to add?
No, I just want to encourage you all that this is fun. It's not as stressful as it seems. It's kind of exciting. The media will enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So just go on out there and have some fun. Say what's on your heart.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you everybody for supporting and everything, and everybody who's planning a walkout at their schools. Just want to thank everybody, and also thanks to Students for Life for helping me. I had no idea that it was going to be this big by the time. Like when I first started this movement, I had no idea that it was going to become nationwide. I was only hoping for it to happen locally at my school, but it's great how big it has become so far.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Brandon, you want to give your Twitter handle real quick so I can follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, definitely. Let me pull it up. My Twitter is @bgilly13. I'll put it in the chat. The Twitter handle. There you go. In the chat right now.
All right. Thanks, guys.